Is it time for the Mountaineers to officially make a change at quarterback? All that and more coming up on this episode of Mountaineer Moment. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. With episode number 28, we just had an episode immediately after the Kansas loss, and this one we'll talk about that and some cause for concerns. And so we're going to highlight four different things, four biggest concerns that the Mountaineers have after this blowout loss in the Big 12 opener at Kansas, and some changes that need to be made, some thoughts that you might have regarding the quarterback situation. I'll give my thoughts on that, and that's where we're going to start. That's the teaser. That's the catch right now. Is it time to make a change at quarterback? And so Mountaineers obviously have utilized a few guys. It's no secret Rich Rodriguez came into the season, saying he's got a very talented quarterback room. And so we've seen Scotty Fox, we've seen Nico, we've seen Jaylen Henderson, we've seen a little bit of Khalil Wilkins as well. And all throughout, though, Mountaineers are through 4 games, and there's been no question, though, as to who the starter would be. It's been Nico Markiel. Every single week, he's been the guy getting the start. Obviously, against Pitt, you look for a little bit of a spark, even though you had to lead at halftime. Scotty Fox comes in, does some good things, does some not so good things. There's a couple picks. Henderson gets some reps, doesn't do much. Nico comes back in, saves the day, leads you to 3 straight scoring drives and a win in the backyard brawl. And then, so we entered into, the reason I give that kind of context is because before I give actual thoughts about what they should do now, but we went into the Kansas week with no question, Nico's the guy. Nico's number one. Nico's him. Nico just did that. Look at what he did. How about Nico? Oh my gosh, he's such a gamer. Oh, he's such a winner. And all of those things, a lot of those things, maybe not all of those things are true. He's a winner. He's a gamer. He's obviously incredibly loyal to Mountaineer fans in the country, waited his turn, and all of that. And he performed the best, right? He led you to a win in the backyard brawl. He's the hero, or one of the heroes. He's the hero as far as quarterbacks are concerned. And so it was okay, heading into Kansas, it's no one else is even going to get a snap because this is Nico's job. And then you get smacked in the mouth. Offense does nothing, and you lose 41-10, and Jaylen Henderson checks in and does some things, and now the conversation starts again. So this is just an ever-evolving quarterback situation, right? 1 minute, it's a full-on controversy. The next minute, it's Nico's job. No one else is even near taking it from him, and now look, right? I mean, Nico and Rich Rod were celebrating post-backyard brawl, hugging each other, and it's that looks like a head coach and a QB1, if I had to guess, right? And that's what it was. But not much change. I mean, and then, or a whole lot changes in not a whole lot of time. It's a week later, and here we are thinking, okay, is it time for a change? And there were some questions regarding Markiel's fit in a Rich Rod offense coming into the season. I mean, from the moment that Rich Rod accepted the job, it was okay, we have Nico Markiel here. He can run a little bit, but he's not a Rich Rod quarterback runner. You know what I mean? And it was a topic of discussion. And as we end week 4 already, I mean, it's hard to believe we're through 4 games already in this season. So the season ain't exactly young anymore. You're through 1 game in conference play, 0-1, and yet much of the same conversation is still happening. Nico's not really necessarily a fit in this Rich Rod offense. And my thought is that if the offense isn't going to adapt to fit Nico, or again, it's not just Nico. This offense has issues top to bottom, front to back, whatever you want to say. Offensive line, running backs, receivers, quarterbacks. It's all an issue. And so it's not all just on the quarterbacks. Even Nico's ability to run the ball isn't just on him. This offensive line has issues blocking for runners too, and it's really hard to identify what they should do given, again, when Nico's looked good this year, he's looked good. It's just the offense as a whole, their moments of looking good have been few and far between. Right? I mean, if you just look at the last 3 weeks, take Robert Morris, throw that away, whatever. You look at the last 3 weeks, Mountaineers played against Ohio. Offense really struggled start to finish all day long. You lose your star running back, especially when he went down. I mean, you just couldn't do anything. Couldn't do anything. It was a nightmare. Your defense played well, got you 3 interceptions. You couldn't move the ball at all. Offensive line issue, running back issue, quarterback issue, wide receiver issue. Everybody's got issues. Then you play against Pitt. You take a 7-3 lead into half, I believe, and you were hopeful. Things were looking pretty decent. But the offense didn't do a whole lot, and so you sub out a quarterback. And then, again, we already explained all that, but you fast forward to the end. Mountaineers have 3 straight scoring drives led by Nico Markiel. Okay? And they win the backyard brawl. Fast forward to Kansas. They score 10 points total. And the lone touchdown came in the second half when it was already a game out. Jaylen Henderson leads the Mountaineers down the field with his legs and runs it in the end zone. Aside from that, nothing. Punt, turnover on downs, punt, like it, just ugly 3 and outs everywhere throughout all 3 of these games. So if you take away the ending, the ferocious comeback that the Mountaineers had against Pitt, you take that away. 3 consecutive drives. They score 2 touchdowns and a field goal to win that game in overtime. You take that away. And for 3 straight weeks, this offense has been bad. Has been bad. So, is it all the quarterback's fault? No. Would this offense, given their personnel, given what their issues are, be more suited or better suited to have a running quarterback out there who, when the offensive line breaks down, he just tucks it and runs? Or you have more QB designed runs. I mean, Jaylen Henderson was not just scrambling; he had runs designed for him to go get some yards, and he did. Small sample size. He's had other times this year where he hasn't done much. He's had times this year where his throws have been wildly inaccurate. Right? You can see with the small sample size of watching Jaylen and Scotty Fox and Khalil Wilk, you can see why Nico was the guy who's won the job. And I think this is kind of a cop-out answer to the question, okay, the moment we've all been waiting for. Should West Virginia change the starting quarterback, permanently or whatever, however you want to word that, not just where Nico starts and Jaylen Henderson gets a couple drives, but where Jaylen comes out and he starts the game and he finishes the game. Should the Mountaineers do that? The cop-out answer I'm going to give you is rooted in this offensive line and their struggles and the offensive scheme that the Mountaineers have. Because we haven't seen a lot of change through this offense. We're going to get to that in a moment, but if the offense continues to be the same as far as personnel-wise, performance-wise, around the quarterback, forget quarterback aside, think about the offensive line. If they continue to play at such a poor level, and if the coaching and the game plan and the plays that are called for certain personnel continue to be called and they're continue to not work, then yes, I think they should make a change. And that's a cop-out answer because what we're seeing isn't working with Nico. Now, the alternative of that is, okay, offensive line gets improvement somewhere, somehow. Right? That would be a miracle in itself, but let's say the offensive line does improve. Let's say playbook, situation, game plan, scheme, all of that in the offense is more tailored to Nico Markiel. And it just fits better with who he is. And the guys around him play better, whatever you want to say, then I think you don't. So I just gave you both answers in about, a minute and a half, right? And it's tough. But my head says that there's not going to be changes. My head says they're going to keep rolling with the same system. And the offensive line's still going to struggle. Then heck yeah, let's go. Jaylen Henderson, it's time. Because we've seen what this offense looks like with Markiel. And again, this isn't a knock on him. This isn't a knock on saying Nico can't do it. He's not capable. He's not a good quarterback. He's not a good player. None of that is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, with this system and with the way that offensive line is blocking or lack thereof, you probably are better suited. You probably are better suited for a quarterback that can really, really get it done with his legs. And, Nico's simply not that guy. Not that guy. All right, I mean, Henderson was able to check in and run for 79 yards in the game, 7 carries. Again, game was already out of hand at that point. But he had 6 rushes on that 95-yard touchdown run, 95-yard touchdown drive alone. He had 77 yards on that drive. And, as a tweet that I saw this weekend said, that's the closest this has looked to a Rich Rod offense all year. And so now we're back to this quarterback debate once again. We thought it was, I'll get in line to say I thought it was done after that Pitt performance, and yet here we are. Here we are. So I said there's 4 things. That's number 1, and that's the hot topic thing to discuss. Again, not because Nico's just that bad. I would kill to see, an offensive line that's protecting for him, and you're getting holes, and you're having time to find these weapons that the Mountaineers have on offense, and one reason or another, and again, lots of different reasons as to why they're having so much trouble offensively. I've said it 17 times already, but it's not all on the quarterback. But if you need a spark, like Rich says, or need to make a change, and if they can't afford to make wholesale changes up front on the offensive line, then maybe the quarterback position is the one thing you do change, and you see what happens. That's my thoughts. I'm not going to make a prediction right now to say, all right, yeah, Jaylen Henderson's going to start against Utah. But, I would have been surprised, obviously, if Henderson started against Kansas, but I'm not going to be surprised if he started against Utah. I just want it because this is the situation we find ourselves in, and through 4 games, there's, what you learn, I think, after 4 games, and now 3 games against, 1 Ohio, and then 2 games against power conference opponents, 1 in conference in Kansas, 1 against Pitt. We're 4 games into a season now, and so if there's still lots and lots of glaring issues, I want to be careful how I word this. They become less fixable, right? From week 1 to week 2, week 2 to week 3, week 3 to week 4. There's some minor glitches, things that you need to fix in the system, and schematically, how you're lining up, how you're blocking, this kind of thing. But if it's the repetitive thing every single week, it's less of a fix. It's more of just that's who you are. And Mountaineers are trying to, we're kind of figuring out who they are, and much of it is ugly offensively. I hope I'm wrong, right? I hope these are things you can fix. And will a new quarterback fix it? Will new players getting checked in fix it on the offensive line? I don't know. But that's number 2, is this offensive line and their concerns just continuing. Again, I think that unit, more than any other unit, is the perfect picture of, okay, you had 3 really good drives against Pitt, back to back to back. But aside from that, what are you doing? Nico was taking a beating in the first half against Pitt. There were just other struggles, obviously, blocking up front, aside from Jaylen Henderson against Kansas. Their running backs couldn't do a thing. Now, Ty Edwards was out. That was a huge thing. We're going to get to that. But man, oh man, that was not a good performance from the offensive line. It's just not good. And if we've been expressing concerns from the preseason through weeks 1 through 4, and it's not getting fixed, there's a chance it might not get fixed. And so what can you do to adapt? How can you win football? How can you get a first down with an offensive line that has some issues? Well, that's not up to me to fix. That's not up to me to figure out. It's up to Rich Rod. And not to say that these guys can't get better as a unit, but you got to play to your strengths, right? If your strength now becomes that you have a running quarterback and that you have a good, solid, big running back and Ty Edwards, who's hopefully going to be back, and you have some, Rodney Gallagher, some Cam Vaughn, and guys on the outside that can make plays. You got to figure out to maximize their strengths while minimizing your weakness, which is an offensive line. So that's all we'll say about that. We've talked enough about the offensive line on the history of this very brief podcast. Number 3 is this running back situation. Obviously, Ty Edwards, who would have thought? I said it on the last episode breaking down the Kansas game as a whole. It was like, all right, he's probable. He's going to play. What is that? And this is nothing. Then it's an hour before game time, and he's listed as what? He was listed as a game-time decision. He's a game-time decision. You're like, all right, Rich Rod's just messing with him. What is that? What? He's not hurt. He played on the final drive, scored the game-winning touchdown. He's not hurt. He didn't play. He was hurt. And we didn't really know that. It was listed a little bit, but again, I think I saw probable on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. It was like, all right, he's a little banged up. He's going to play. Made the trip, but he didn't play, and that hurt. You have a guy that was the story of the previous week in your win and against your rival, and the only glimmer of anything offensively, running the ball outside of, Jaheim White, with his one run, big long run against Ohio for a touchdown. It was Ty Edwards was it last week against Pitt, and then now he's not playing. So that hurts you a lot. And then we talked about Clay Ash, and Clay Ash is averaging 2.5 yards a carry on 28 carries this year. He seems to be the feature back. Now, Sincere Bowers obviously got in and got cracked. Hopefully he's all right. And Dior Hubbard even got a little bit of time. But, when Ty Edwards hasn't been on the field, Clay Ash even had, I think, 12 carries against Pitt. And he's just not doing well. He's not necessarily making mistakes, right? He's not fumbling the ball but 2.5 yards carry just ain't getting it done. And he continues to be the guy. He continues to be the feature back for the Mountaineers, and I don't know why. The hope, obviously, is Ty Edwards is back and healthy and ready to go against Utah, but I don't know. Clay Ash, this is a problem. This is a problem. This running back situation is a problem. 4th and finally, I said we're going to get to it. I'm noticing a lack of ability, or adaptability, I should say, on offense. Obviously, this has been an offensive geared issues that we're talking about, and that's really what it is. Defense has their fair share, but this offense has struggled for consecutive weeks. And Rich Rod has a play style, likes to play fast, likes to run the football, likes to get up on the line and go, and even run some repetitive plays if it's working. Problem is, I feel like we're running repetitive plays that aren't working, and we just haven't seen many adjustments. Rich Rod said post-game, it was not good, nothing was good, coaching was not good, playing was not good, after this blowout loss to Kansas, and that's true. Nothing's good, and so what are you going to do? And I think we're some of the same feelings that you were experiencing watching the Mountaineers lose to Ohio were some of the same feelings you were experiencing watching them lose to Kansas. It was repetitive play calling. Maybe even you question some things. And Rich Rod's an offensive mastermind. I'm not trying to dismiss what he does as a coach, and he's doing with what he's got personnel wise and tons of new players, and I understand that. But again, going back to even our first topic of discussion with the quarterbacks, if you don't adjust your play calling to suit Nico and to equip this offensive line for some success, then there's problems. And we're not adapting, right? I would love to see, as we further ourselves into conference play, some adaptability offensively, from a play calling standpoint, from even getting some new faces out there to see what they can do, because what's going on right now ain't working. And the Mountaineers fall to 0-1 in conference play, and that's 4 big concerns after the blowout loss. Quarterback play in that situation, how that's going to get resolved. The running back situation, Ty Edwards, Clay Ash, offensive line, and their woes just continue, and that's seeming to be not a fluke, right? They're struggling every week. And then fourthly, all right, given the fact that the offensive line is struggling, given the fact that the quarterback situation is ever evolving, how are you going to adapt this offense to somehow, some way find success. Try something new, because what's working ain't working, or what you're doing ain't working. It is broke. It's time to fix it. And so hopefully Mountaineers can adjust some things before you get a hungry Utah team coming off a loss themselves at home against Texas Tech. And then we come to Morgantown on Saturday, and this is the official closing of the book. Thank God for the Mountaineers' loss to Kansas, and we'll be on to Utah prep for their matchup Saturday afternoon in Morgantown. There'll be several episodes coming your way, just like we've done every week here on Mountaineer Moment, getting you ready for kickoff. We'll see you next time on Mountaineer Moment.